Here comes the boss, Mr. McMahon. He does not look happy, and that's not a shocker.
WWE Chairman Vince McMahon traditionally has a specific vision on how he wants a certain match to go. If that match doesn't live up to the vision or the standard that Vince McMahon has set, then it's rather common for him to verbally dress down the superstars involved once they get backstage. There are some matches that Vince absolutely loathed. Which ones were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 WWE matches that Vince McMahon absolutely hated. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists.
Stop the match! Stop the match! Get the hell out of my ring!
Number 10, Bronson Reed vs. Drew Gulak. In the summer of 2021, WWE made plans to bring Bronson Reed to the main roster. Bronson had a successful run in NXT in which he would win the NXT North American title, as well as have a number of high-profile matches with the likes of Johnny Gargano and Adam Cole.
His passion, wants to be the best, wants to beat the best.
Reed would wrestle Drew Gulak on the June 24th edition of Main Event, and this was supposed to be a test to see how Reed does against a main roster opponent. The match was well received by fans watching at home, however, Vince McMahon reportedly didn't like the match and didn't see anything special in Bronson. Vince would be so underwhelmed by his match with Gulak that he would be released from the WWE in August of 2021 in a move that pretty much nobody saw coming. Number 7, Seth Rollins vs. Kofi Kingston. Now, on paper, Seth Rollins vs. Kofi Kingston sounds like a fantastic matchup, but when the two decorated superstars collided on SmackDown in 2014, Vince McMahon reportedly hated the match so much that Rollins got lectured by Vince backstage. The issue was that Vince believed that Rollins gave Kofi too much offense in the match, and as a result, it made Rollins look too weak. Rollins would discuss the match and Vince's reaction during an appearance on Edge and Christian's podcast, who revealed Vince was furious about it, like furious. Just get over here, and he's yelling at me, and he's just like, if you're gonna be my guy, you're gonna be my guy, that's not what I want. Number 8, Natalya vs. Shayna Baszler. When the global pandemic drastically altered how WWE filmed and presented Raw and SmackDown, it allowed WWE to retape any matches that didn't quite hit the mark. One of these matches was the match between Shayna Baszler and Natalya on May 11th, which should have been a perfectly acceptable match for Raw.
Isolating the arm, tried to break the arm. Now Natalya went for a cover. Ooh!
But according to Shayna herself, Vince McMahon hated it so much that he made her and Natalya redo the match completely. Shayna discussed Vince's reaction during an appearance on Renee Young's Oral Sessions podcast. She revealed,
"The next week I have a match with Natty, who's way more experienced at this than me, obviously. Natty's trained with me, like, in an MMA gym. So I was like, listen, let's just shoot around a little bit and then we'll get to what we need to get to." We do it. He hates it. We go in the back and he's like, "Looked like you guys were just fighting each other."
Yeah.
Okay, so he makes us do it again.
Number 7, Luke Harper vs. EC3. The late great Luke Harper never got a fair shot in WWE. Vince McMahon just never seemed to get what the future AEW TNT champion could offer the WWE. This was clearly the case when Harper faced EC3 in a dark match before a SmackDown show in 2019. The match was negatively received by Vince, who completely soured on Harper following the match and pulled him from television for a number of months. In relation to EC3, during the match he was accompanied by Drake Maverick, but Vince hated the pairing. The pairing had been successful in TNA and the two real-life friends would have been a perfect fit on WWE television together, but Vince unfortunately had other ideas. Number 6, The Ultimate Deletion.
He knows.
The feud between Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy was finally settled in 2018 when the two met in The Ultimate Deletion. This was supposed to be a cinematic style match, and it would be virtually WWE's version of the popular style of matches that Matt had made famous in Impact Wrestling.
Brother Nero, I knew you'd come.
Now, although the match was somewhat different from how Impact presented the match, fans praised WWE for doing it, as well as the creativity of Matt, Bray, and all the people involved in the production side of it. But according to Matt, Vince was so shocked that the match was received so well, as Vince didn't have too many positive things to say about it. Matt would discuss Vince's reaction during an appearance on the Talk is Jericho podcast, revealing,
He watched it in the production meeting,
and a few people in there had watched it already. But after it was over and ended, everybody like clapped and stood up, and he was just kind of like looking around, and he told a couple people, I don't get it. Yeah. I don't get it. I mean, if it does good, if it does a number, then I'm truly out of touch. I think he said that. You know,
Number 5, Rhino vs. Tajiri. Traditionally, WWE Chairman Vince McMahon doesn't attend live events. However, in the summer of 2003, this all changed. For a brief period, Vince attended live events in unprecedented fashion. This was so he could keep a close eye on things as well as see what was translating well to the audience. When Rhino faced Tajiri on one of these live events, Vince disliked the match so much that he stormed down to the ring and told both men to head to the back. The fans in attendance were chanting boring at the two talented performers, and Vince had seen enough, so he decided to end the match himself. According to Rhino, when he got backstage, Vince justified his actions by saying that Rhino and Tajiri did little to change the pace of the match when the crowd began to react negatively. However, Rhino admits that he was paid extremely well for the live event appearance, and he theorizes that Vince felt bad for stopping his match, and this is why he received a substantial payday. Number 4, Cesaro vs. Gran Metalik.
He doesn't quite have the charisma, doesn't have quite the verbal skills as well. It may be because he's Swiss, I don't know.
Vince McMahon has always had mixed opinions on Cesaro. Whenever Vince has begun a push for the former US champion, it's been halted as Vince seems to sour on him rather quickly. Take for instance the match between him and Gran Metalik on September 18th, 2020's edition of SmackDown. The match was met with so much anger from Vince backstage that he ordered the match to end with immediate effect. Vince would communicate with the referee via his headset and would inform Cesaro and Metalik where to wrap up the match.
Here comes the neutralizer. Center of the ring, face first goes Metalik.
When fans witnessed the match on television, it was unclear what the issue was, as the match seemed passable for a standard match on SmackDown, but something in that match clearly upset the chairman. Number 3, Jerry Lawler vs. Michael Cole. Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole's match at WrestleMania 27 is often considered by fans as the worst match in WrestleMania history. Surprisingly, it wasn't just the fans who felt that the match had no place on the WrestleMania card.
I do!
According to Cole, Vince McMahon hated the match so much that he called it the worst thing he's ever seen. Speaking to Corey Graves on the After the Bell podcast, Cole would discuss Vince's reaction to the infamous match. Cole added, "I got carried out of there a bloody mess. As I go to the back, I walk to the back and I'm like, man, I thought that went pretty good. I go to the back and I look at Vince, and Vince looks at me and he goes, that is the worst thing I've ever witnessed in 60 years. So that was my WrestleMania match, but the check cleared and I'm still undefeated." Now, although Vince hated the match, that didn't stop him from continuing the feud between the two Raw commentators. The two would wrestle at the next 2 pay-per-view events in 2 separate gimmick matches, so it was clear that Vince was getting some kind of enjoyment from their matches later on. Number 2, Chris Jericho vs. Kevin Owens. The match between Jericho and Owens for the US title acted as a second match on the stacked WrestleMania 33 match card. Going into the match, the feud between the two men was the highlight of WWE programming, and a number of fans expected the two men to steal the show. However, this wasn't the case.
You were never my best friend!
The match was decent, but it was nothing special. It was overshadowed by matches such as AJ Styles vs. Shane McMahon and even Seth Rollins vs. Triple H. When the WWE Network aired the 365 episode based on Owens, it showed footage of Vince McMahon refusing to speak to Owens following the match. This was due to how bad Vince believed the match was. According to Jericho, Vince called the match one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history, which certainly seems like a huge overreaction. And number 1, Triple H vs. The Undertaker. Yeah, that's right, Vince McMahon disliked the match between 2 of his favorite superstars ever. This was Triple H and The Undertaker's acclaimed match at WrestleMania 27, a match which was the highlight of a rather poor WrestleMania.
Watch out now. No!
His dislike was due to the match finish, which involved The Undertaker being carted off by the WWE medical team due to the damage he received at the hands of Triple H.
Another pedigree, and he hit it. Oh, there it is. The second.
The Undertaker, whilst being interviewed by ESPN, had this to say in relation to Vince's dislike of the match. Yeah, he did not like it. He did not like it at all. And to quote, "My Undertaker walks out of the ring. I don't care if he wins or loses. My Undertaker walks out." And you know, we already knew what we were into. We were in the 3rd year of this story, and that alone is so special to be able to continue a story for 4 years. It's unheard of in our business. As well as the match finish, Vince fined both men for performing a chair shot to the head spot during the match.
Just to get his feet. Oh no!
There had been a ban on chair shots to the head for a number of years, and the two men were naturally punished for this act of defiance. But there you have it, folks, 10 WWE matches that Vince absolutely hated. Did you hate any of these matches? Let us know in the comments down below. I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.